So, and welcome my Malacups to another episode of The Sims 4 Bustin Out, where I take builds from The Sims Busting Out and I remake them in The Sims 4. Today I am doing Mimi's house. Now if you're familiar with The Sims Busting Out, Mimi's house was one of the first two locations that you could go to after Mom's house. These locations were actually completely dependent on the career path you took, so you would either go to Dudley's trailer or you would go to Mimi's house. I typically went to Dudley's trailer, mainly because of the career path I always took. I don't remember what the different career paths were, per se, but I rarely ended up at Mimi's. And I think I might have actually done that more intentionally, because Mimi's house was like a girly girl's heaven. It was pink. Everything was pink about it. The exterior was pink, her bedroom was pink, her living area was pink. So I went ahead and I took that and I ran with it, and I even gave it a little bit more pink. Essentially the shutters on these windows are pink and the door is also pink. With her bedroom, I went ahead and used the door from High School Years, which had the pink designs on it as well. I wanted to kind of almost make this feel like a Barbie dream house, if you will. So when it came to designing it, I picked as much pink wallpapers and floorings and everything as I could. But at the same time, I didn't want to overwhelm it. I didn't want to make it feel too much, if you will. So you'll see eventually where I go ahead and I backtrack and I make some rooms not only different colors, but more just neutral, if you will. So like the living area, I ended up making more neutral. I did go ahead and try to, when it comes to the exterior house, keep it as close as possible though. The roofing is the exact same. I added a little window to the top portion there just to, once again, give it something, because it seemed a little bland just to have that peaked roof there. I went ahead and did the landscaping as close as possible as well, but I did also add a few different things too. Added some more trees, bushes, some grass, if you will, just to kind of go ahead and fill it up more and make it feel less, I don't know, like placed, like actual items. I wanted to make it feel like something was actually growing here. It took me a minute to go ahead and figure out how I wanted to do this without overwhelming it too much, because honestly, landscaping is not my strong suit. Now, I did also come back here because in the busting out, there's nothing in that little grass area. It's just a grassed area. I don't know if there was a reason for that or not, but I wanted to go ahead and put something here, so I added these pink flowers, which just scream the same aesthetic to me. I went ahead then and added the terrain paint to the area just to kind of make it feel like these things were actually planted here. There's shade, so you know, sun's not getting there as much. Little things like that. I went ahead and finished the exterior here by adding a light mailbox and of course the trash can for your Sims to throw out the trash. Moving interiorly, it took me a minute to figure out how I wanted to do this. I went ahead and added the pink flooring that I knew was in the living room and in Mimi's room. I did change up the guest bedroom a bit, because while in Sims Busting Out it was more of just a neutral room, I want to go ahead and make it like a polar opposite room of Mimi here. So like her room's all pink and fun, and this room ultimately ends up being more of I guess kind of like a dark room. I went ahead then and wallpapered and floored the rest of the house to the exact same as what it was in the Busting Out, but I did go ahead and change those ultimately in some areas. Now, High School Years actually comes with a lot of stuff that worked really well for Mimi's room. She kind of gave off that I'm a teenager that never really left my teenage years kind of aesthetic. Like, she always has just this stuff that just screams at, like plants, the neon mirrors, because I believe she had like these egg chairs in her house too, and like neon lights, so it kind of just fit to have like that mirror there, and I believe I put a lamp on the table, yeah, the neon lamp there as well. Just things that really kind of fit for her. I did try to make as much stuff in her room pink, because once again, that's the type of person she was. She had a lot of pink, but she didn't wear a lot of pink. Added some vases and a clock, and ultimately I was trying to find things to put on the walls, pictures, anything that kind of had that pink aesthetic, or just like the girl aesthetic, if you will. I then moved on to the living area, which in Busting Out, Mimi had a bar in her living room, so I went ahead and added that here as well. Then I went ahead and added these sofas instead. Like I said, she had like these egg chairs in the Sims Busting Out, but I wanted to actually put sofas and make it feel more like a living area. So I went ahead and put those there. Added the stereo she had, and I added this bookshelf so your Sims can have books to read or, you know, get your skills up, things like that. I then proceeded to go ahead and try to decorate this as much as possible, looking for things to put on that little end table there, plants to put around, pictures to hang up, anything to fill this space, because once again, this seems like such a huge space to have so little in. I didn't want to make this necessarily a base game build because, once again, I already did that with Mom's house, so I wanted to go ahead and make this as full as possible without many restrictions here besides just sticking to the high school years and base game. I want to use as little packs as possible, so that way if you decide that you like this build, you can go ahead and get on the gallery, and if you have like high school years, then you can have this whole house because that's all that's in it is high school years and base game. Moving on to the dining room, I went ahead and, like I said earlier, wanted to change it up a little bit to just make this house feel a little bit more diverse. I went ahead and separated it from the kitchen area, trying to evenly split the two in half. Then ultimately decided whenever I moved on to the kitchen that I wanted it to feel more pink than what was in the base game. Or, I guess not base game, back in Busting Out. I did go ahead and see if I could add a pattern here, but didn't really like where it was going, so I just ultimately scrapped that idea and started putting in the actual furniture of the kitchen. Now, I started using, once again, more pink stuff because, like I said before, she was a very much kind of like a pink sim. And this is where I kind of was surprised at how many different pink items we actually have in the game. I don't play with pink too often or anything like that. It's not my style personally. So I was kind of pleasantly surprised to see all of this stuff. It really just made me feel good about what I was building. I went ahead and also wanted to add a hood over this stove here. Took me a minute to find one that I actually enjoyed or liked. Ultimately ended up hiding it under that cabinet a bit just because I didn't want it necessarily sticking down too far, but I didn't want it to look like it was going into the wall into her room either. I finished off by adding some more appliances, straightened out that sink and window because I didn't like how they weren't centered together, and then ended up adding some clutter later on as well. I moved on to the dining room after that because I just didn't know what else I wanted to do with the kitchen at the time. So, once again, in Sims Busting Out, they had those big square tables that could easily sit 8 Sims. I didn't want to necessarily put a big square in, but I thought the long table would work perfectly here. Once again, here I am cluttering that kitchen up because I didn't want to necessarily leave it so bland. Like, we have all this counter space, but nothing on these counters. I didn't want to have anything clipping, or at least not clipping too much, so I went ahead and made sure I tried to keep that to a minimum. After that, I just moved on to going ahead and trying to find, once again, decorations to put around because I don't want things to not be decorated. I hate kind of just those bland spaces or empty looking rooms or empty looking walls, counters, whatever. I want to try and make sure that there's something interesting to look at everywhere. Once again though, I struggled with this because not many things fit that pink aesthetic when it comes to decoration wise. It's in high school years and base game. I did end up deciding to go with these more white framed things because white and pink, they did ultimately go together very well. I did move on to the bathroom after that, which was also a big struggle for me. Not necessarily because I couldn't figure out how I wanted to set it up, but once again, it's kind of a big bathroom and I could not find items to clutter the walls with or just put in the room to make it feel complete, if you will. That's where I kind of like Dudley's trailer better. His bathroom wasn't that big, so it was easier for me to clutter up and make it feel complete. I did ultimately end up hanging up a picture in here and trying to figure out how I wanted to do the walls over here, so I just put a towel on this side and then a hand towel over by the sink just to, once again, make that wall feel complete. I did want to try to put something above this towel, but ultimately, once again, I couldn't find anything. Nothing that felt like it fit in a bathroom, so I believe I left that blank. After that, I did decide to move on to the other bedroom. I did redo Mimi's bed a little bit. I wanted it to be a different color. So I went ahead and copied that bed over, copied the dresser and the 2 end tables over, changed them all over to a like blackish purple aesthetic. because once again, I wanted them to be almost polar opposites. One pink, one black, purple, whatever have you. And ultimately, I did love how this room turned out. I wish I could have done something different with the door, as you see me toying around here trying to find something that might fit it better, but ultimately I ended up sticking with the same door. I went ahead and placed some lamps in the room and just cluttered up that dresser there, and ultimately this build was really fun to do. It is up on the gallery under Kira Kamayura, and it's free to download, so have fun.